Hello and welcome to the Inner Game of Entrepreneurship podcast. I'm your host, Sarah, and it is our last episode of the year. Last episode of 2025 is December 27th as I'm recording this, and it's been a ride. I had to get this episode in before this year was out because I think the topic that I'm discussing today about making investments when you've made some bad investments in the past is really pressing for this time of year. Before I get into the episode, I want to let you know that my end of year retreat, Mush Week, is starting tomorrow. I do this retreat every year. I've been doing them really for the past 10 years, but I've only called it Mush Week for 3. And I called it Mush Week because that's what I call the week between Christmas and New Year, where you have no idea what day it is. Like right now, it is Saturday, but it feels very Tuesday-ish to me, and I have thought it was Friday all day long. And my friend just told me that it was Saturday because we're all kind of on vacation and everything's been weird. And like Christmas was on a Thursday, everything's a mess. So I call it Mush Week because everything is mush during this week where many people have the full week off. They have no calls on their calendar. They don't have a lot going on. And all of time feels a little wonky in this week. So I've always just called this week Mush Week, but I have led goal setting retreats and planning retreats for artists, creatives, entrepreneurs for 10 years during this time, more than 10 years actually. Now that I think about it, because I was doing them before I moved to LA, 12, maybe 15 years. I've been doing them a very long time. And they are really fantastic, fun events. We are going to get together from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., the 28th, the 29th, and 30th. And I'm going to be guiding everyone through a process of wrapping up last year with a bow. Everything from getting our times together, getting our profit and loss statements for the months together so that we're ready for taxes way in advance. We could just hand everything over in January, to making sure that our offer suite and our messaging, our positioning for next year is accurate to what we want to do. A little end of year emotional recap, what worked for me last year, what didn't, what support do I need in the year ahead. And we do this all in our jammies with cozy beverages from the comfiest corner of your couch. Everyone comes in pajamas. It's like a big business pajama party. It's super fun. And it's only $77. Last year, I had someone tell me they got more out of the first day of Mush Week than they had gotten out of a $20,000 coaching program. And my coach told me I should add a 7 to the price. Mush Week is $77, and she said you should add a 7. But I am very committed to not doing that because Mush Week is magical and it's fun and it's a little Christmas gift that you can give to yourself and your business. And it's also great body doubling. It's the kind of CEO time that a lot of us know we need to do, but we're probably not going to do unless someone sits down and does it with us. So I highly recommend you join me for Mush Week. If you can't come, there are recordings, but it's much more fun if you can come live. There's a glorious 40-page workbook that guides you through everything. So if you can't come, you can totally use the workbook and the replays on your own, but you should be there. I am going to leave the link in the show notes. I would say the URL, but it goes straight to a checkout page. So it's a long URL with a bunch of numbers and letters, and I don't know it, and you won't remember it. You can check the link in the show notes. You can also go to Instagram at Intuitive Edge Coaching. And if you comment MUSH, MUSH on any post, my little robot will DM you the link so you could get it that way as well. Okay. So that's an investment that you can make before the end of the year and write off on 2025 taxes. So let's get into the topic of the day. Always when several of my clients and friends, multiple people in my world come to me with the same topic, I know I need to make an episode about it because there's just something going on for all of us that's top of mind. And this situation has been brought to me in 3 coaching calls last week, and I'm going through it as well. And it is the feeling of knowing you need to make an investment in something in your business, but having hesitation because you've invested in that kind of help before and it didn't go well, and how that fucks us up. And this is just, it is such a normal part of growing a business. You don't get to a certain level in business without having at least a handful of very expensive bad investments under your belt. And it really stings. And so I'm going through this. I think a lot of people are going through it because it's the end of the year. And we are looking forward to what we want to do and what we want to accomplish in 2026. And we're going, okay, I'm going to go all in on this area of my business. I'm going to really pursue this project. I'm going to get myself this kind of help. I know I need help to reach this goal. And then all of the of that past bad investment like comes into usually your chest and your throat is where we feel it in the body, or like a sinking in the gut. It can make our head swimmy. And what really starts to come up is this old story, right? Like the story of what happened last time. I've done this before. I've hired people to help me with this before and it didn't work. And for some of us, this is true for me, we're still literally in the financial reality of that because I am paying off debt from consultants, hires, people I hired to help me with things that I put on credit, trusting that the investment I was making was going to have a real revenue return in my business during the time I had that person working with me. And it didn't happen. And not only did it not happen, but sometimes it was disastrous and I left off in a worse position than I started. And I'm literally still making monthly payments to pay off this investment. So not only do I have the feeling of I've hired people before and this didn't help me, but I have less money to invest now because part of my monthly budget is going to paying off the past bad investment. And this is so common. Everyone I know is either dealing with this right now or has dealt with it in the past, or every time they go to make a big investment, they have this resurgence of, but I've done this before. And so I want to talk a little bit about what's really happening when that happens and if it's happening for you, and maybe give us some ways that we can work around it. I can share with you how I've been moving through it, how I've been helping my clients move through it, and maybe give us some new ways of looking at the situation in the past and some new ways of assessing the investment we want to make now to help us determine how we should move forward. So I want to start by just separating the financial and the emotional. The financial reality is the cleanest part of this whole thing. It is the simplest part. There's just the actual loss, like money went out and it didn't produce the expected return. The end, actually. Like it's very simple. The money part is actually very cut and dry, right? If this were like a profit and loss statement review, we would just mark that as a sunk cost, non-recurring, closed. I made this investment. It was a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 months ago, however long ago it was. I spent the money. Yes, I was hoping I would get something out of it. I didn't. The money is gone. I have bought many things since then. I have subscribed to many a piece of software since then. The money is gone. And I've made more money since then. More money has come in. And so when we soberly look at it from a financial perspective, money went out. There's nothing emotional about that. Money goes out and comes in all the time. That's just what money does. Money moves the way the ocean moves. The spirit of money likes to circulate. It goes out, it comes in, it stays, it moves, it does its thing, right? Like money wants to be useful. It comes in, it pays a bill, it goes into your savings, it goes into your investments. It's always moving. That's how money be, right? Money comes in and out the door like it has a key. And so I think it's helpful sometimes to get grounded in the simplicity of that. The money is gone. Now, this can be complicated when you're like, well, it is recurring and it's not closed because I'm still paying it off. We still look at that as the money is gone. Now, when we get into how do we make new investments, we may want to consider, do I not make any investments until all of my debt from last investment is paid off? If we're paying off a bill and that's the smartest thing. But sometimes we can't do that. We simply have to get real with ourselves about how long am I going to be paying this thing off? At this point, this money will no longer be coming out of my account and I'll have more money to allocate to something else. But the money has no emotional or moral attachment to it. It has no failing. We buy things. Money comes, money goes. Where things really get sticky is the identity bruising. If you see me look down, I have notes. I'm trying not to go off on too many tangents, as y'all know. The identity bruising. Because bad investments don't just cost money. They actually threaten our self-trust. And this is what most of us are dealing with when we go to make an investment and our past investment that didn't work out, I don't even know if I want to call it a bad investment, but our past investment that didn't work out comes up. That's when we start having questions like, how did I miss that? Was I naive? Did I abandon my standards? What if my discernment or my judgment about people, what if my ability to glean like who's really able to deliver on what they say and who's not? Like, what if I'm not as good of a judge of character as I thought? And when this layer isn't addressed, then unconsciously it can cause us to like underinvest next time. Be like, oh, well, I'm not going to do that again because I've done it before and it didn't go well. It can cause us to be really controlling about our decisions, right? We start to clench. We just start to clench and we start to brace. It causes us to clench. It causes us to feel like we need perfect certainty before we can move again, or to just not make any moves because we're like, now I don't trust myself. I thought I was making a good investment last time. I thought that person could help me. I thought this thing that I was doing was the answer and I was wrong. And so how can I tell this time if I'm repeating that mistake? And that can make us clench, right? But that's not a leadership move. That's a reactionary space, right? That's reacting from the wound, right? It's an open wound. We are not healed from this thing yet. We're still guarding it. So what we need to look at, the leadership lesson here, is that a lot of quote unquote bad investments were about what was driving our decision making when we said yes and who we were being when we made that decision. That's the identity level thing, right? So some common little culprits that I have seen are when we buy proximity instead of outcomes. And it happens a lot in the coaching world because there are a lot of people who are like selling proximity, like just be in my energy. The upgrade happens when you're in the room and you're like, okay, but like what is my business actually going to get out of this? And so you spend a bunch of money to be close to some entrepreneur because they're selling you on the idea that like being around them is magically going to upgrade your tax bracket. And that does not usually happen. Another thing that can trip us up is confusing resonance with clear outcomes. So we're just like, I just like this person and they're saying all the right things to me and they make me feel like this is going to be a good thing. I want to spend time with them. I want to trust them. And so they're saying all the right words to me. I don't even really understand them, but okay, I'm just going to trust them. Another thing that can happen is that we are letting urgency override us doing our due diligence. And this can happen. We're just like, I need help right now. And so we say yes to something really fast and we don't really take time to go through a rigorous decision-making process within ourselves, like to vet what our own needs are and to vet whether or not this thing that we're investing in can meet those needs. And sometimes we're just out of alignment with our body signals. Like our gut is like, this is not the thing. And we're like, oh, but other people have gotten good results from this thing, or somebody else recommended this to me. There's something misaligned between our head and our gut. And we say yes. And then later we're like, I knew that felt off. But if we can't name exactly what was going on with ourselves when we made that decision, then we're going to keep treating our future investments like they're dangerous because we're like, I don't understand what went wrong last time. So how can I prevent it from going wrong again? And that's a really valid point. Self, thank you for that. If I don't understand what went wrong last time, how can I trust myself to not do it again? So an experience is only really over. Closure is when that past experience stops having a vote in future decisions. Until then, it's not a past experience. It is a present experience because we keep pulling it into the now and using it to shape our future. So when I'm talking to a client and they're like, yeah, I want help with this thing, but I'm scared because I've paid for this before. I'm freaking out because I'm watching myself spend money and I need the help, but I've invested in this kind of help before and it didn't work. We have to be able to do an honest postmortem on what really went wrong when we made those decisions. Own everything that we can own about them. Release the parts that are not our fault. Allow the financial part, the money, to just be the money. Do whatever we need to do internally to forgive ourselves if there were things that we had a hand in doing that led to it not producing the outcome that we were looking for, and set some new decision-making criteria to make sure that we're doing something different going forward. So I want to talk a little bit about what actually went wrong before. And I'm not saying this is true for you, but I'm going to say some common things that I've done and some things that I've seen my clients do. So the first one I'm going to name is what I'm calling cheap times 3. So this is really when you're trying to get premium results at budget prices. I am in some business groups on Facebook, and sometimes I'll see someone post that they're trying to hire like a $5 an hour VA based in the Philippines to do social media management for them. And they're expecting this person to create their entire marketing strategy, They're not giving them anything. They're not giving them copy written. They're not giving them a brand Bible. They're not giving them colors, fonts, direction. They're expecting a miracle. And sometimes this is just a beginner level mistake. We don't actually understand the different roles that exist and what we're trying to hire for. But so often people are trying to hire like a $50 an hour person for $500 an hour strategy. We're trying to hire an hourly team member for someone who should be a one-time high ticket consultant. We're trying to get premium results at budget prices. We're trying to get friends to do stuff for us. We're trying to do things on a trade. And then what will happen is we're not going to get good results. And then we're going to have to go spend money another place to get someone to fix the bad results that we got the first time, or we will just be out the money and have nothing to show for it. And then we have to go spend the money again to get someone to create the thing. So when I call it cheap 3 times problem, it's because now you've spent like $1,500 across 3 affordable failures when you should have just paid for the $3,000 solution the first time. So because you were trying to cut corners financially and you were really trying to get unrealistic output from very low input, you made something affordable actually really expensive. This is death by 1,000 budget cuts. You're asking people to do things outside of their scope, and then you're disappointed when they can't deliver that thing, but you were being cheap. Like, we've got to be honest. I've done this. We've all done this. Everyone's done it. Not, even if you haven't done it in business, you've probably done it around your house, right? Like, somebody told you they could repair something, and rather than going and like hiring a professional, you let your buddy do it for a couple $100 and they messed something up, and then you had to go hire the professional anyway, and it was more expensive for that person to fix the problem that your friend made than if you had just hired the professional to begin with. So we got to be honest. Was I being cheap? Was I trying to cut financial corners? Was I trying to just get friends in rather than hiring a professional? Sometimes what I see is people who are hiring friends or interns or people who they like you and they want to be part of your world. But what you actually needed was an expert, because you don't know how to do this thing either. And now you have somebody looking to you for direction you can't give them. So we've got to look at, was I being cheap? That's one of the most common ones I see. Next, and this is a little bit of a crossover problem, is the abdication problem. I'm abdicating responsibility. I'm abdicating leadership. So you weren't delegating. You were actually just hoping someone would save you. And I have been so guilty of this, y'all. And this one is also tricky if you are a person who values everyone on your team being a leader. So one of the ways that this has kind of been conflated for me is I don't think I know everything, and I love hiring experts. I love hiring people who are smarter than me at something and handing them ownership of something and saying, okay, I'm not going to come in and tell you how to do your job. I don't know how to do this. You're the expert. You tell me what we're doing. I want to elevate people. Anyone who comes into my orbit, I want to elevate them. So if this is your area of expertise and your area of leadership, I'm not going to micromanage you. I want you to do your thing. I want to follow your lead. I'm that kind of leader. I want to make sure everyone on my team is supported to do their best work. And I also find that everyone on your team does their best work when they have actual ownership in the stakes of something, and they're not being micromanaged, and they don't feel like you're looking over their shoulder and telling them how to do their job, when they get to be creative, when they get to come up with solutions, when they get to come to you and say, I think we should do this way. And you're like, let's try it, right? So because that's my orientation, I didn't always catch where I was actually just looking for someone to save me from being in charge. I wasn't necessarily hiring help. I was trying to just not have to solve something myself. I was trying to not have to learn it myself. There was a part of me that was just like, you're just going to handle it. You tell me. You tell me what the metrics should be. You tell me what the goals are. You tell me what we should be looking for. I don't know. You do it. And a lot of times we can't delegate vision for our company. When we can, it's usually very expensive. Like if you're talking about hiring someone for marketing, you should know as the leader of the company what they're supposed to be doing, what your brand voice is, what the goals are of this marketing that you're asking them to come and build for your company. If you don't know those things and you can't collaborate on those things and understand them together, you might want to check on, am I just trying to hand this all off because I don't know anything about it and I don't want to learn and I'm trying to be saved from having to be in charge of this. You could hire a CMO, right? But that's expensive. You're probably not going to get a CMO for your company for less than 75K a year. So if you want like a marketing expert who went to school for this to come in and run your whole marketing department for you and your marketing initiatives and your plans and your strategies and the metrics and all of that, you better be prepared to pay. So sometimes this abdication and the cheap thing goes together, right? We're like, not only am I underpaying for what I really want, but I'm just trying to be saved from this thing. You're just like, oh, I think this person is just totally going to handle it without any direction or involvement. You didn't even really take the time to figure out what you needed. So you didn't really know what you were buying because you didn't really know what you needed. I'm using marketing as an example just because it's the one that's top of mind for me. But if you're hiring a marketing person and you as the leader don't have any clear metrics for how you're going to track whether or not what they do is successful to you, how will you know if they're doing a good job or not? That's where we get into things where we're like, oh, I spent all this money and nothing really happened. Well, what was supposed to happen? Did you know when you hired them what was supposed to happen? Did you communicate it to them? Did they agree to it? What does nothing really happened even mean? You can't outsource clarity you don't have, and you can't delegate a strategy you haven't developed. So sometimes we need to check ourselves and go, oh, was I hiring an expert, or was I just kind of hoping somebody would save me from having to be in charge of this thing that kind of freaks me out? Similarly, lottery ticket thinking. Lottery ticket thinking is all outcome focused, right? You're buying an outcome and you're like, oh, if I just take this one course, my whole business is going to explode and I'm going to make $1 million. If I hire this one person, then all of our systems problems are going to be solved and they're going to fix everything. Like this one change is going to fix everything. Lottery ticket thinking is about a magic bullet. If I just do one thing, I'm going to get massive results with very minimal effort on my part. The idea of transformation without participation. And most of the time, that's a fantasy, right? Real investment thinking is I understand the skill or the capacity or the system I need, and I believe this person can help me build it or execute it, and I know exactly what the outcomes are. This is going to make me better at this skill, and I'm going to use this skill to do this specific thing, and this specific thing is going to compound in these ways over X amount of time, right? Real investment thinking is about building infrastructure, building capability and capacity that you can use repeatedly in your business. So the promise is that you're going to grow, you're going to learn, you're going to gain support to do what you need to do. So you're not buying an outcome, you're buying capacity to repeat a system over and over, to repeat getting the outcome. So lottery ticket thinking is like a get rich quick scheme versus learn these skills, implement these skills over time and become someone who can slowly build wealth. Very different thinking. So we have to check, was I going into this past investment with lottery ticket thinking where I thought this was going to be some silver bullet that solved everything and I didn't even really know what I needed to solve? The next is, were there red flags I ignored? Often there were warning signs that we overrode, either because we felt desperate, we felt pressure, we just wanted so badly to believe, so we overrode ourselves. Another thing that's frequently causes us to override our warning signs is we like the person and we don't want to hurt their feelings and we want to give them a chance and we want to be nice and we want to give them time, right? Like if you are a recovering people pleaser with some boundary issues, this can really be a doozy when you're hiring people and you're paying them to do a job and you don't feel like it's working, or you don't feel like they're getting the results they promised, and you're trying to override your internal sense of, I got to get out of this. Something's wrong. I need to get this train back on track. We need more systems. We need more checkpoints. We need more boundaries. Something's not working. We need to acknowledge, if this is true, that your internal warning system did work. You did know. That's a good thing. Your intuition is on. Your gut did work. You just didn't listen to it. So the problem wasn't your decision-making ability and it wasn't your intuition. It was that you didn't act on what you knew to be true at the time, and that's something you can improve upon. And also sometimes you had incomplete information, or just straight up the other person didn't deliver. And so we also have to be honest about times where it wasn't our fault. Sometimes, and this has happened to me also, we did all of our due diligence. We were very clear on what we wanted. We knew exactly what outcomes we were looking for. We were very clear with our delegation. We were following all of the steps. We were investing a lot of money. We did everything we were supposed to do. And the other person just doesn't come through for whatever reason. Maybe they go through a life event. Maybe they were just straight up lying about their capacity, right? Sometimes other people let us down, and allowing ourselves to say, hey, there's nothing I could have done differently in this case. I just got to call it a wash. It sucks, but I actually didn't do anything wrong. It was just a shitty situation. And those sometimes happen, and we have to find a way to forgive everyone involved and kind of shake out the Etch-a-Sketch and let that go so that we can move forward. I found it really helpful when I went through these processes myself, and as I've been going through them very recently, to recognize, okay, yes, I've hired people to help me with this in the past. I was trying to be cheap. I was abdicating responsibility and looking for a miracle. I wanted this person to just come in and lead. I wanted them to tell me. I didn't have clear metrics that I knew, okay, I'm hiring you to do this exact thing, and this is how I'm going to know whether or not it's working. This is how I'm going to know if we are seeing the results that I want to see. And this is what I'm going to do if we're not. And as a leader, I have to own that. I can look back at people that I've paid for a really long time after I knew I had to let them go because I liked them and I didn't want to have a difficult conversation. These are growth edges. And if we can't, again, understand what went wrong, then it's going to be really hard to allow ourselves to move forward, because the closure from this past bad investment comes when we let go of what happened, we understand it, and we can reauthor our investment standards at a higher level because of what happens. So here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you some journal prompts. The first thing I want you to do is do a little post-mortem without attacking yourself. For one specific quote unquote bad investment, just answer, what did I believe this investment was going to make possible? What criteria did I not require that I now see mattered? And based on some of the things that could have gone wrong that I just went through, cheap times 3, the abdication problem, lottery ticket thinking, red flags you ignored. If you're still replaying old investments in your head when you're thinking about making new ones, they still have a hold over your future decisions, and that is optional, but you're not going to be able to move forward until you clearly understand what went wrong and you have a new framework to help you move forward as you make your next set of investment decisions, because investing in your business is never going to stop. Investing in your home, investing in yourself, investing in your life, it's never going to stop. So I want to offer you some reframes here, and then I'm going to give you some journal prompts, and then we're going to close this out. Expensive is relative to whether or not it works. A 10K solution that actually solves your problem is cheaper than 3 $2,000 failures. It just is. It just is. Because at the end, you're still going to go back and get that 10K solution, but you're going to be, $8,000 in the hole, $6,000. I can do math, I swear. $6,000 in the hole from the last bad investment. Be more discerning. Harder questions, slower pace, more proof. Take your time. And not just harder questions of the person you're hiring or the program you're going to join, though do that too. Asking yourself harder questions. What exactly do I want to get out of this? What is my real goal? Checking with yourself. Am I trying to be cheap? Am I trying to cut corners? Am I trying to get out of taking responsibility for this? Am I engaging in lottery ticket thinking? What are the red flags? How does my body feel? Take your time. The next thing is to know that the goal is not to never get burned again. It's to make the most aligned choices you can from who you are now. And this one's hard because, of course, we're like, obviously my goal is never to get burned again, but we can't control that. We can't, because sometimes you can do everything right and still have something not work out. So we can't go through life, right? It's just like with dating, right? You cannot be like, well, I had one bad date, so I'm never going on a date again. Or even I had 10 bad dates, so I'm never going on a date again. Sometimes we need to take a little break, but we don't want to shut ourselves down to the possibility of love in the world because we've had a bad experience. We don't want to let past bad experiences dictate our future and cause us to close off. That would be the only way to guarantee we never get burned again, is to never invest in anything again. And we're not going to do that. So we have to just know, I might get burned again. And I still move with my heart open into the world. So next, clarity first, then investment. Do not spend money hoping it's going to give you clarity on what you need, unless the thing you're spending money on is a strategic consulting session with someone that's designed to help you figure out what you need. If you're paying for a clarity session, I offer those, right? A breakthrough session, you're like, I have too many options. I'm struggling to make decisions. I'm not sure what I need. If you're paying for a session that is just designed to get you clarity, fine. But otherwise, don't spend money hoping it's going to give you clarity on what you need. Figure out what you need and then go hire exactly what you need help with, right? Exactly what your needs are, exactly what would help you get those needs met, then invest in exactly the thing that can deliver that. Next is know that if you're hiring someone to help you with your business, you're not hiring them to fix your business. You are hiring them to help you build what you already know as the leader needs to be built. And if you're not sure what needs to be built, figure that out first. Next, reframe. Cheaper is not your number one decision-making criteria. Yes, we all like to save money. We like to make the most strategic decisions possible with our investments, but sometimes investing in the right help once is better, again, than the wrong help 3 times and then someone to fix it. We cannot negotiate our way out of reality. If solving your problem requires a certain expertise and that expertise costs what it costs, it costs what it costs. Like, that is the mantra. It costs what it costs. Expertise is not usually cheap. And so don't try to negotiate your way out of that. Look at what it costs and go, okay, if this is the reality of what it's going to cost for me to get the thing I want, then this is what we're doing. So some journal prompts for you. If you are staring down an end of your investment, if you are looking at the support that you want to invest in for next year, if you're looking to hire a team member, if you're working through some bad investments, I already gave you the audit. You can do that for each one of the bad investments that are lingering in your psyche. Here's some questions to consider about the thing you want to invest in next. Number one, what problem am I actually asking this investment to solve right now? It can't be everything. It can't just be growth. What is specifically broken or slow or not working that I want this thing to solve right now? How will I know if it's working? What are the metrics that I am using to determine whether or not this thing is working the way that I want it to? And are those realistic metrics? Next, am I buying support or am I hoping to be rescued from having to be in charge of this? Number 4, if this works imperfectly, but I show up fully, would it still move my business forward? Next is, what standards am I using this time that I wasn't using before? And finally, what is the cost of doing nothing here for another 6 to 12 months? Right? What's the emotional cost? What's the practical cost, the revenue cost, the energy, the momentum, the time cost? What is it going to cost me if I don't do anything for the next 6 to 12 months? And maybe the answer you're going to find is, actually, that would be okay. I can wait on this and I can pay down some debt and I can do this later. But maybe the answer is, it's too expensive to wait and I need to make an investment. And finally, I want to give you some permission slips. It is okay to say no. Not every opportunity is our opportunity. Sometimes we're like, oh, I want this, but I'm going to let this one go. The next one is, it's okay to say yes. Staying stuck costs us too. And the cost of not getting help sometimes is higher than the cost of getting the wrong help, figuring some things out, and moving forward again. It is okay to be scared and do it anyway, or to be scared and not do it. Either one is okay. But the fear doesn't need to be resolved in order for you to make a good decision. You can go through everything that we've talked about today. You can feel really grounded and discerning in how you're coming to your decision and be like, this is a good decision. I'm going to say yes. I still feel a little scared because I just need something to go well. I need to prove it to myself. So the fear doesn't need to be resolved before you can make a good decision. And then the final permission slip is, if you're still hoping to be saved, that's okay, but you're not ready to make an investment. You should just wait and make sure that you feel clear, you feel ready to lead, you feel on top of the decision that you're making and like you're making it from a leadership position before you say yes. It will go way better for you if you take that time. So I hope that this was helpful for you. I would love to hear your thoughts and your feedback. You can hit me up at intuitiveedgecoaching@gmail.com. You can send me a message on Instagram at intuitiveedgecoaching. I always love hearing from you about how these episodes land for you. And these are also the last few days of the year that you can invest in working with me for 2026 and lock in my 2025 pricing. In 2026, I'm raising my prices for the first time in years. So the cost of working with me one-on-one and the cost of my mastermind both are doubling next year. Today's the 27th. You have until the 1st to apply for Powerhouse Mastermind or to claim one of my last 3 year-long coaching spots for 2026 before those prices double. I will put the links for both of those things in the show notes, but you can go to intuitiveedgecoaching.com and click on services. If you would like to apply to work with me, you can go to intuitiveedgecoaching.com/powerhouse to apply for Powerhouse Mastermind. If you pay for these things now, you can write them off on 2025 taxes. So that does help with your end of the year numbers. But of course, I have payment plans available if you would like to spread the investment across the year. But if that is helpful for you to know, if something that was on your goals, your vision boards, your ideas of last year or next year is that you wanted to work with me, I want you to have all of the information possible. And that includes knowing that after December 31st, my prices are going to double. So keep that in mind. That is our episode for today. Thank you so much for being here with me. Happy New Year. Okay, love you. Bye.
That's our episode for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this. I know there are so many things that you could be doing with your day, so many things you could be listening to, and it means so much that you are here in this community. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment, share it on social media, and tag me at Intuitive Edge Coaching. Share it with a biz bestie who you think needs to hear it and will appreciate it. And take a moment to to subscribe, and to leave a 5-star review wherever you are listening. It helps me grow this show, and it helps us grow and sustain this brilliant community of entrepreneurs dedicated to doing the inner work. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, love you. Bye.